All right, so this is part 2 of our conversation series with my husband, String.
If you haven't watched part 1, do it because this probably won't make sense.
Yeah, we finished part 1 with our story and how we met and how I was confused about what do you want, what's happening. It was just like a mess. I was like, who is this man? And they were just laughing and saying, how did we end up here? But before we do that, so today in this episode, actually, String, husband, I want to talk about you and your journey. So just before we started recording, you told me maybe these episodes are not good episodes. Why did you tell me that?
Because we were talking about our friend Joe, who you interviewed on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. He's a deep guy. And
you're not a deep guy.
I wouldn't think so. Like, Joe's very... I love Joe. I mean, I've only met him in person once, and he just has that sense about him. He's very connected. I think he's smarter than me.
Okay. And when I told String, I said, no, String, I think that we exactly need to have this conversation so that the women listening and watching know that so many men, I think most men that I've interviewed on this podcast are obviously doing either men's work, they've read a lot, they are coaching men. Joe is someone that I know, like when you listen to his interview, by the way, if you're watching, you should listen. That's an amazing interview with Joe. He studied like martial arts for 25 years. He thought a lot about this stuff. He's a very deep, connected, and wise man. And I think that when women hear me talk to these kinds of men, they're all searching for this like deep guy. And I always tell my women, and when you come to host calls, I always tell my women that String, my husband, is not one of those guys. And I think it's such a great example that you're a regular guy. I think you actually represent majority of men who are just regular men. Like, I think the regular guy that most women would meet out there on the street, they have no clue about polarity.
No, most guys are just guys. They're just normal guys. Yeah.
Well, I should say that in your case, I think we were engaged, I came to visit you. I think we met before we got engaged. We were very serious. I remember I came into your house and I looked at your bookshelf.
Did you see the big portrait of me?
Oh my God. And you had like long hair and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I don't want to know that, String. So what I want to share is that, when we met, there was weird things going on. So we're going to talk about how did that all transform so that I was starting to be so attracted to you. And then we ended up together and everything. I think that on the surface, you think that you're not a deep guy, but you actually are. Like you've been to Tony Robbins events. That's what I want to say. When I came to your house, I saw a bookshelf full of fiction books, great books on like marketing and travel and everything. And I also saw David Deida, The Way of the Superior Man. That is like the Bible for polarity. And when I opened that book, you actually highlighted paragraphs in that book. And I saw Tony Robbins and everything. So whatever I experienced with you before, it was kind of reflected to me in your bookshelf. Maybe that's not the secret, but part of why our relationship is so strong is because we're still constantly kind of discovering each other in that way. Like even now in this conversation, I ask you questions about you, although we've been together for 7 years now, married 5.5, but I still feel like there's so much to know.
There's so much to know. There's so much to know. There's so little you know.
But yeah, I mean, that's true. Yeah, so I think that's why we need to do this series, because you are a regular guy that so many women meet on the street. I feel like so many women that I talk to, they're looking for like a man who's healed his childhood trauma and like all of this stuff, which is just unrealistic. I think most men just go through life being men. They don't know anything about polarity, feminine, masculine. They don't know,
I learned about the personal development journey back in the mid-2000s.
Okay, so let's start with that. Actually, okay. How would you tell your story from boy to man and how you became the man that you are today?
Okay, my personal growth journey began 2001, and my best friend went to a personal development seminar.
Why did he go? Do you know?
I don't remember. It was run by a guy in Sydney who was basing his He was running people through a Bob Proctor program. It was called Born Rich.
Yeah. So it's just kind of random.
I don't know his journey. And then I ended up going to an intro night. I was like, oh, wow, this is interesting. This is something I haven't heard about. I went to a program, so it was a three-day program, and it blew my mind.
Proctor, all about like being rich and manifest.
Yeah, the law of attraction, what you think about, you achieve. That it was my first experience that there's more to me than just the physical. Because I started feeling things like, why was I crying so much? Why was I crying? Why was I laughing?
When were you crying?
During the 3 days, yeah. Because it's a journey. It's up and down, up and down, up and down. And then...
What were you crying about?
I don't remember specifically, but it's...
So it's kind of like a Tony Robbins experience.
Yeah.
Was it going back to childhood and doing some of that work or what?
I don't remember specifically. Then I went to Tony Robbins the year after. No, 2 years after. But that set me on the journey. And then I just wanted to devour everything. I was the personal development junkie. I just thought this is a solution to everything, but I didn't have life experience. I was 24 or 25.
So what happened? So, okay, I'm curious. What happened in that moment when you say this was a solution to everything? Like, what do you mean by that? What was before and what was after?
For me, it was always about money. Do things that are going to make me ultra wealthy. And I went to this program because I thought, oh, well, this is going to help me make money. And I was a landscape architect. I was a new graduate. I was earning $30,000 a year. And then when I left that program, I was so confident I could do anything. I went from full-time work to contract work. I didn't do my math very well and thought I could achieve amazing results in business without any business experience. But that was the start of the journey. And then that led on to learning about how men and women interact.
Where did you learn that, about how men and women interact?
So it was David Deita's book, The Way of the Superior Man.
Where did you hear about that one?
From what I recall, Day with Destiny is on the Gold Coast in 2004.
Day with Destiny is an event.
With Tony Robbins, yeah, because he was doing it.
So this is when you heard at the Tony Robbins event, you heard about polarity. Then you asking polarity.
Yes, because I ended up going into share accommodation for the event because I came up from Canberra to the Gold Coast. One of the guys was a guest of Tony Robbins who was working with David Deita or was learning from David Deita. And then he talked about, what he was doing. I thought, oh, this is interesting. Somehow I got that book and I absolutely loved it because that was my sort of the deep dive into how to be a man.
Why was that interesting to you?
At the time, I was 26.
20 years ago.
Yeah. Uh-oh.
20 years ago, I was 13. Okay, while we're talking, you know what I realized? That you and I actually never have conversations like this. Do you agree that this is strange?
Yeah, we don't normally talk about this. But is it like maybe we're performing for the...
No, we're not performing, but it's like...
But we don't have an agenda normally. Like if we're talking, it's not like we sit down for dinner and say, okay, tonight, let's talk about our relationship and what's your journey to becoming a man.
But we don't talk about it. We don't sit down for like 45 minutes and have a discussion, like a serious discussion. Do you know what I mean? But it's not to say that we have a lot of depth in our relationship. I'm thinking like, is this one of the pillars of why our relationship works? Is because with us, well, first of all, you bring, I think, a lot of humor and laughter into everything, which is, we know is a defense mechanism for you as well to deal with your emotions and vulnerability. But like, we know each other really well. We connect. There's a lot of depth, intimacy, but like, we're not friends. Maybe that's related to that. Because like, I feel like, when I talk to Joe about this, I talk to him as a friend and we like go deep and ask him questions, but I don't have conversations like this with you. This is like a friend conversation. We're not friends. That's not the problem.
You're not my friend.
We're like We're lovers. We're husband and wife. We co-parents. And we have polarity happening. It's really interesting. Do you find that interesting?
Yeah, well, I couldn't be I married my best friend. Yeah, no. If I married my best friend, I'd be married with Vic.
But okay, well, your best friend, you don't even have discussions like this. But as we're talking, I'm realizing something about our relationship. It's a form of therapy, I suppose. And I think this is important for everyone, for all the women to hear, because I think that women imagine, and that's why you as my husband come to this podcast, because I think a lot of women, and I myself have imagined in the past that, I'm going to meet this man. He's going to be like a lumberjack or be all into yoga. And
You got it.
And he's like,
You won the lottery. So where are you getting to?
I'm going to sit there and like talk to him for hours and hours about like the deep subjects of philosophy and like relationships and feminine masculine polarity, where with us, none of that is happening.
No.
Yeah, but why not? Like a lot of women think that, like they want that. That's like a story or a fantasy.
Well, if they want it and they want to find a guy who's interested in that, then go find a guy who's interested in that. I'm sure there are guys who want to talk about that.
Yeah, for sure. But for us, it's not that. I wonder. I mean, the impression that I think we're giving is that we're like this shallow couple that just laughs all the time.
Pretty much.
Well, okay, well, this is super interesting. Let's talk about that, because I feel like there's something in there. Because we are not. It's not like we're... boom, boom. Like... How is that? How do you feel that? And how do we do it if we're not having these deep discussions about everything?
Do we need deep discussions? How our relationship developed over traveling together, spending a lot of time with each other, being in foreign environments, and you get to know each other. We got to know each other through that.
We literally lived together for 7 years now. So the question is, how do you not have deep discussions for 7 years? And I think that there's...
No, we do. Okay, yeah.
When you say you don't need to have deep discussion, like, what is that? I guess...
Well, when we go out, like, it's different with kids now. When we go out, we don't really talk too much.
We do. We get, with kids, we constantly get interrupted.
No. When we go out to dinner, when we're at home, yeah. There's no chance of talking or having the longer discussions because we're being interrupted.
Do you feel like we have a lot of depth because we're working together as well, or that's more of a hindrance? I'm just trying to understand. I think there's a lot of freedom and lightness in our relationship and our marriage. That's why if it works, because like we do not have a friendship, as in like you're not my best friend and I'm not your best friend. We use the other support systems that we have to fulfill those needs. Like, this is weird. This is not natural.
No, it's not. Thank you for bringing me on to your show.
How do you... Is intimacy and depth in a relationship important to you? If no, then that kind of sucks. But
I haven't thought about that. I didn't go into this relationship or past relationships and part of my I want intimacy and depth.
Interesting, because as a woman, I do. That's actually one of the most important criteria for women in relationship. That's why I crave a relationship with a man, because I want intimacy and depth. And maybe that's...
But intimacy is a byproduct if you love someone, because we're intimate, and if things are good, you are intimate.
Okay, so tell me about love.
About love.
Getting really serious.
How would I describe love?
Have you ever thought about that?
I don't think, no, I wouldn't have talked about how would you describe love. I don't think I've ever been asked that question.
But I've heard you obviously tell me that you love me and you adore me.
Well, I'd do anything for you. So that's what it is. And it's easier for me now to think love because it's you and Zoe and Eva together, and I would do anything for all of you.
Okay, let's refocus on why.
Okay. But my head goes there because when you say love,
Yeah.
it's
Part of this therapy is like, seriously,
you need to feel love.
I think having these discussions with you for the past year specifically, where I have to remind you, the children, obviously the kids are there and we love them enormously and that's everything. But I have to remind you of this philosophy that I hold, that I know deep down in my bones is true for me. It's like, first for me is me.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, holder of the family unit. And if I focus on me first, because I remember when we had arguments and you're like, you're only thinking about yourself all the time. I think you've come around since then because you understand. And actually, I want to hear from you. How most women operate is, especially in a family dynamic, in a setting marriage, is like children come first. And then I think this is how your mom operates still. My mom, probably like everyone, especially from older generation. So it's like kids first. Then it's like the man, and then it's probably the community and everybody else around, and I'm the last one. And so in my life, and what I'm teaching women is the reverse, the fact that I come first. My emotional, physical, energetic well-being as a woman, especially as a mother, is the most important thing in this family. I hold myself and the children in an energetic container, and you are playing the protector, provider role, holding the family. Yeah, so coming back to like, I have to remind you that the children are going to be happy if we're happy and if I'm happy. So it's like me, then you and me, and then the children. What do you think about that, Dad? The new paradigm?
I can see it, how you're thinking about it. For the kids, having been in the happy family, they see it. So rather than telling them how good life is, if they see us happy, they'll be happy. But it's very hard for me to not focus on them. So
Focus on me first?
yeah, but it's hard.
Yeah. Why is it hard?
They're my little daughters. I don't know, there's something that happened when Zoe was born. I don't know what it is, how to describe it, but yeah, kids are kids. They're me. They're me and you. They're a mix of us.
Okay, so coming back to your personal growth journey and David data and everything, tell me about how you were growing up. How was that journey? Because I know you went through like a whole thing, like you had long hair at one point. Like
Rock star.
parentheses, total loser. I met String when you were 40 years old and you were a fully formed guy that I initially got attracted to, and then I was like, I'm out of here. And then a whole thing, we need to discuss that too, how everything turned around. But I was really impressed. I actually had my own insecurities about when I met you, because I think, for the first time in my life, I saw a man who was in his masculine energy, but also ready, available for a relationship with me. And all of my kind of feelings of, am I worthy of this guy, were coming up for me, which I know is hard to believe for you as well. Maybe you had things like that as well. It's like, no. But for me, I have been attracting men that have been in their masculine energy, but they were not available. And as I was doing my work and everything, I then met you. I think you were such a catalyst in my journey.
I bring out the best in people. Is that what you're trying to say?
Let's actually talk about that period, because we ended part one with talking about how we had a really bad kind of first sex experience, and I was really bored there. You knew I was bored. You were not really in your masculine when we talked about, why didn't you pull me in and say, sit on my lap and let's do this? And what he's like, there's something happening for you where you are not leading. You didn't know where this was going and you were not taking charge. And I think I felt that within you, this kind of like that wasn't attractive. And I was like, fuck this guy, I'm out of here. And I told you, stop wasting your time on me.
So I know it's a big thing. It's a big thing for you. That moment you told me, don't waste your time on me.
Yeah. And then I just left. And I was so disappointed. I remember I was like...
And the next day, we were in paragliding.
Were we?
Yeah.
Was it the next day?
Yeah.
Oh, because it was already booked.
That's right.
Okay, tell that story.
Yeah, so allegedly you told me not to waste my time on you, which I don't remember. We had paragliding booked in. It was just outside of Medellin in Colombia. I had the scooter rented again, and then we went out. We stopped by a cafe in the mountains. We had some breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah, had some breakfast there, and you were really horny, and you've been chatting with a guy, sexting. Yeah, I just said, I'm going to go fuck you in the jungle. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, okay.
And then you started laughing, like, what? I said, yeah, get on the bike. We're going.
Yes. Okay. So you see that moment. You see how that's different. That's when I think things started to turn around because you took charge. I didn't expect it. I think in that moment when you said, no, I'm paying for breakfast and we're going fuck you in the jungle, it was like a pattern interrupt. And I was like, well, let's see how this is going to go. And then what happened?
And then we did.
Yeah.
And then we went paragliding. But then after that, things changed because that night.
So it wasn't the money. It was that.
Yeah, 'cause things changed then. I think, yeah, it was the night that we were hanging out by the shopping mall.
Okay, when I showed you the Hot Crazy Matrix.
Hot Crazy Matrix. Yeah, we were eating McDonald's. Yeah, we were eating McDonald's ice cream.
Yeah.
And you were showing me the Hot Crazy Matrix, and we were just laughing. Because that's when I started to get to know you.
So see, I mean,
because you were opening up.
Don't you find that interesting? Because that one happened. It's like everything was kind of like a jellyfish. Like confusing jellyfish, whatever. And the moment when you stood up and took charge, I knew there was direction in there that was attractive to me. That you could stand up and you had the balls, the confidence, the courage to stand up and say, I'm paying for breakfast and I'm fucking you in the jungle.
Yeah, but if you connect the dots backwards, that's what I did in that time. And I was confident because what could happen? You could laugh, you could think it's a joke, and you did think it was a joke until I pulled over.
Oh, I mean, you could have said like, okay, well, maybe we'll do something after paragliding. But in that moment, something woke up in you.
Well, the opportunity was there. It's like, oh, let's go paragliding and then see if I can reignite that conversation. I mean, when we were chatting, I got horny as well.
Yeah, but I think it was interesting. It was something new that I think it was like when I talk about polarity language, right? That's why I always say give men chances, because I think because we were in that weird thing.
Yeah, well, that's also, I don't know what you were thinking.
I wasn't thinking anything. I told you, I was like, this guy is just, I don't understand what's happening. I know he likes me, but he acts like he doesn't like me. So your words, actions, it was like all mumbo jumbo. I didn't give a shit. Like I said that because there was nothing here for me.
Well, yeah. I mean, at the time we'd slept together once. We hung out a few times.
It was terrible. It was boring. Yeah. And
we were like, I didn't know. Like, you weren't my girlfriend.
Yeah.
We were just two people having fun, hanging out, and the opportunity presented itself, and I don't know. I just felt bold, and so let's do it.
You did feel bold, yeah. And then there was a second moment which we'll laugh about. I want to tell this story about how you bought me for like $1,500. Do you want to tell that story? For me, I thought that was actually the moment when things have shifted. But now, it is therapy. We're actually discovering that the moment where everything shifted is when you said, okay, get up, I'm going to fuck you in the jungle. That's what I was wanting for you to do in Rio Negro. See, like the feminine wants the guy to be like, we're going here, and this is how this is going to work. And you're going to be like, you want to surrender. Like, I wanted to surrender, and I wanted to see that in you, but it wasn't there. So I was like, whatever.
Right there.
And that's how a lot of relationships don't work, because that's an example of polarity, what happened. And then from then on, it just became better and better. And then there was the money situation, which escalated things.
Well, for you, yeah, you lost the ATM, your only card that was working in Colombia.
Yeah.
So, and you had rent coming up and you couldn't get access to it, and it was going to take 2 to 4 weeks or however long for a new card to be sent from Malaysia. And it was just brought up in discussion. It wasn't like, hey, do you have money for me? We were talking and it came up and I just said, oh, how much do you need? And you said, I think it was $1,200. But you also needed some money because you couldn't get any cash.
Yeah.
And I trusted you, so I was like, okay, how much do you need? And I said, okay, yeah, I'll have it to you. And I just went to the ATM and
withdrew $1,200.
yeah.
Yeah. Knowing you now, I know that you would have done it for anyone. Not anyone on the street, but anyone that you knew. You're very genuine.
Yeah. Someone needed help. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, I'm doing this and now you're gonna love me. It was, I just knew, okay, you've got a job, you're working.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get the money back. I trusted you. It was like, well, I wouldn't want to be in that position. And if someone else had money and it was only for a short period of time.
So in that moment, did you feel for me there was something more there for you with me or not yet?
No, I don't think so because it was.
We're just like.
Yeah, we weren't serious.
Yeah.
We were laughing a lot. Like we were liking each other more and more. We were hanging out a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So for Moses, when that happened and when you showed up in a big way and I felt that, yeah, you didn't do that to get something or whatever. You were just helping me. And I saw you in a different light again. I saw a quality in you that I perhaps didn't see before. And we always laugh like you bought me for $1,200. For me, from then on, I not only saw that you were in your masculine. So that's what women are looking for. Like if we talk about polarity in the genuine relationship context, a man who can take charge and say, here's what we're doing, this is what we're going. And then you're like saying, can I trust him? Can he lead? Can I rely on him? Can I surrender here? And will he actually pull through with that? So that was the moment for me. And then the money thing happened, which revealed yet another side of you that I knew that I could trust. There was obviously this kind of taking care of me and everything in a way. And then from then on, yeah, from then on, we were just kind of inseparable, really. So at that moment, so you knew that I was actually seeing other men. How'd you feel about that?
I knew there was another man who was scheduled to come, but I thought that's going to be cancelled. Yeah. So
I'm thinking that because before that, there was a moment when you said you knew that I liked you. Tell us.
Oh, you were making dinner and you were giggly and nervous. When I saw you were nervous, like making dinner, why would you be nervous? I just assumed, well, you're nervous because you like me, because you wouldn't be nervous around somebody if you didn't have feelings.
Till all of that time that I didn't like you.
I wasn't sure. We weren't, like, we were not serious.
So I find fun. Yeah, but I find it so bizarre. And I think a lot of women now might be having a light bulb moment because for us, like if I sleep with a man, I mean, okay, yes, there is this occasional one night stand where you literally like don't give a shit. For most occasions, I would say if a woman decides to sleep with a man, and this is all evolutionary speaking, because we make the choice and it's a costly choice for us. And that's why there's a lot of attachment around sex. But if I choose to sleep with a man, I have to like him or be attracted to him. You were thinking about this like a guy because you thought, oh, she's just sleeping with me. I don't know if she's interested. We're just hanging out. But for me, I was obviously interested after, of course, you took charge and everything. But from a man's perspective, a man doesn't know or can't be sure that she's interested until an indication of interest, a very clear indication of interest, which from my side was cooking dinner for you and being excited and nervous. This is when you knew, but this was way into, I was like falling in love with you by then. I was like in love with you by then, and you just realized I was interested. You see how the speed is different?
Yeah, there were feelings there, and that's when I had feelings for you.
That moment happened, you knew I liked you, and you assumed that that other guy wasn't coming, but he was coming.
Yeah. So he was coming. I don't remember what night it was that you told me. You said, "Oh, by the way, the guy is still coming. And I said, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean he's still coming? Because I thought by that stage we were growing to like each other.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, if he's coming, I'm going.
Yeah.
And then I don't know what went through your mind, but for me, it was like, yeah, basically I checked out. I cut you. I remember, cut you from Facebook. I said, don't call me if he's here. I don't want to know anything. Yeah, that hurt because I just needed to cut it. I mean, I remember he arrived and then I ended up getting a WhatsApp message from Toby.
So hang on. Don't tell the rest of the story.
Oh, okay.
So we're actually going to stop here again.
Oh, no.
Isn't that awesome? We're like doing storytelling, and I have a lot of questions that I have from the community, but it turns out to be, I think, a really interesting discussion about our story and what happened. And I wasn't claimed
Yeah.
officially, so I was dating. I was sleeping with you pretty much. I mean, we were pretty much living together. There was massive attraction. We were in love. Now looking back, it was intense. But then there was this other guy coming to see me, which was arranged and discussed previously. And in my mind, yes, I was sleeping with you, but I was also single.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, and so the guy was coming, and you were like, "Oh shit." I assumed that.
Yeah, I didn't. I know. I knew he'd been booked, but I just assumed, oh, this is going to be cut off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is really important because this is a moment where, when I work with clients, I teach all of them the dating funnel. They should always date a few minutes at a time. And there comes this climax moment, which is what happened with us, which is what's happening with a lot of women. I hear a lot of stories from my clients where, like, some men are very much offended by it. Some men are checking out like you did, and some men are continuing. So we're going to end here. And next episode, we're going to talk about how did I go from this point, ending up you claiming me. We ended up traveling together and had a family and everything.
Oh, things moved fast after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you on our next episode.